Very welcome back to our digital public event, taking stock of what's been happening in the EU with regard to digital collaboration and looking ahead to the future. Max, have you been enjoying our sessions so far today?
I have been enjoying my sessions, and I hope, listening and watching what is going on in the chat, that also you guys, you girls out there have been enjoying it. Stay with us, stay engaged.
Absolutely. We've had lots of questions coming in, and I do want to encourage you to keep sending those questions in for our next discussion. We're very pleased to discuss digital supporting Europe's recovery from the pandemic. That's the title of this roundtable. And here with us in the studio, we're delighted to welcome Mario Campolargo, the Director General of the DG for Informatics of the European Commission, better known as DG Digit. Mario, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Also joining us, we have Roberto Viola, the Director General of the Directorate of Communications, Networks, Content and Technology of the European Commission, better known as DG CNECT. Roberto, delighted to see you. And last but not least, joining us from Portugal, we have Maria de Fatima Fonseca, Secretary of State for Innovation and Administrative Reform in Portugal. Delighted also that you could join us. Thank you so much, all three of you, for being here and for giving us your thoughts. The pandemic has dominated all of our lives for the last year and a bit. It's changed the way we work, the way we think, and also about how we're going to look towards the future, I imagine. So, Mario, let me hand the floor to you to get your thoughts on this to start with.
Well, you just said it in a few words, but I think that what we are facing here is digital governments have really to accelerate this transition and the digital transformation that if it was already urgent before the pandemics, it becomes really critical at this moment in time. And when we think about the recovery and the resilience program, how can we address it without having the digital government?
Absolutely. Roberto, I'm sure you're going to echo very much there what Mario said.
Absolutely. I mean, we have been learning that the key word of this pandemic is, can you see me? Can you hear me? Do you hear me well? Through digital, we kept the society going. I mean, it's the first time in history. I mean, pandemics unfortunately plagued many times mankind, but this time is the first time that the society kept going, and this is thanks to digital. We kept schools open, offices, production sites with a minimum number of people, so containing infections. And also through digital, we are trying now to reopen everything with a green digital pass that will allow us, hopefully, to travel again. So digital is fundamental, and it's also fundamental for the recovery, and that's where we will devote 20% of the recovery fund to digital, and within digital, the reform of public administration through digital technologies. It's also one of the essential elements of this new path.
Maria, now, I mean, we've heard that they're from the gentleman at the EU institutional level. I know in Portugal you have a lot of experience with public administration. Tell me a bit about, just from a member state, a national perspective, what has been going on.
Well, there's a lot going on everywhere. And I think we all say the same things and share the same vision, fortunately, because we are opening up to unlock new possibilities that digital is bringing us, and using them to have a better future. This is not new. Many of us already knew it for a very long time, but as previously said, the pandemic crisis is making clear for everyone that digital is really a building block in our societies, in our economies, and is really shaping the way that we see each other as individuals and as countries, and the way we cooperate with each other. So there's a lot going on, and it's not by chance that the motto of the Portuguese presidency is time to deliver a fair, green and digital recovery, because we must make the most of digital to have better lives. And as Roberto said, we hear a lot that people say, can you hear me? Can you see me? But we also say, please unmute your phone. Please don't call me after 10 p.m. And there's a lot going on, transforming the way we are engaging in work processes also. So raising awareness as far as the limitations of technology and as far as we want to go as societies is also a big part of the discussion that we must have and must share.
Well, just to follow up on that, you mentioned the limitations of technologies. Is it, in essence, the limitations of technologies as we want to use them? I mean, you mentioned bringing in societies, Maria. Is it about what people will accept and how far they're prepared to go?
It's also about what people will accept and how far they want to go. Yes, of course. Because when we say that we must have a human-centric digital transition, we are also saying that people must have a voice on how far we must go and how we must use. So it's not just about raising awareness on the use of technology, but also on the limitations of technology. And to do so, we must discuss the values that are central to our societies. And more cohesive societies, more fairer societies must also choose the way they must use technology. So this is a huge part of the discussion that we must have, yes.
Mario, one of the watchwords that we're going to be hearing about over the next 3 days is collaboration. How important is that? And how important is it to get that right from a grassroots level, from a very beginning of any project?
Oh, it's very fundamental. I think that my colleagues already referred to this notion of looking to the challenge that we have in our society from a digital perspective. This is very important, not to consider it as an a posteriori, but something that is really changing the way we cooperate with each other, we work with each other. And it's so interesting that in the public administrations in the past, we have been always looking to the aspect of interoperability, and we consider it important and I would say urgent. But at this moment in time, it's just critical because we need all to collaborate with each other. And this is something that the pandemics brought to us, is that there was a pre and a post pandemics, and the initial reaction and the ability that the society in general, all of us, working from home, our small and medium enterprises, moving to the digital world, all of that was very important because was reactive. But what we need now is to move from a reaction to a strategic move. And that's where we need to bring the aspects of digital transformation, of this digital transition that Europe has to acquire, not just in the public administration, but across all the sectors. That will be key, as Roberto and we keep saying, for the recovery and the resilience plan to be actually a positive move in the European society.
Roberto, I know you touched on it already, but obviously we're building on what Mario's just said about interoperability, and they are sort of core success factors for CEF and for ISA that we're discussing this week, and also for the future. So, I mean, how important is it to make the best use of these recovery funds? I mean, you mentioned things like digital passports, but where do you see other areas that might be new as a result of the pandemic?
Well, thanks for this question, because I think we have to stress over and over that this recovery fund is a unique opportunity. I mean, when you take the current EU programs and what we will try to do in the future, which is increase the amount of spending at European level, and you compare with the amount of money available under recovery, you discover that you have under the recovery fund available for member states 70 years of EU budget. So this is the magnitude. It's an impressive boost to spending in digital solutions for the public administration, and hopefully reversing once forever. I mean, we are approaching this logic, but not yet completed. The logic of the citizen going to the administration, which is the traditional way in which we see the administration, to the administration going to the citizen. In our vision for the next decade, the so-called digital decade strategy, we said administration should be on the palm of the citizens. So basically, I mean, with your smart applications, you should be able to access all the services. And there, of course, the interoperability comes into play, to make sure that every administration, every service provider, also private service provider, use standards. And processes are designed in a way that this vision, citizen-centric vision of public services can be realized. And this can only be done through reforms in most of the cases. It means that, of course, instead of digitizing the bureaucracy or the existing bureaucracies when they are present, we need to reverse the process by being sure we have modern laws that govern the public sector that can be implemented through the funding of the recovery fund. So the link in the recovery plan between reforms and digitization is very strong, and the Commission will insist very much that this link is kept in order to have very efficient public service delivered to our citizens.
Maria de Fatima, let me come back to you. As a representative of the presidency, you obviously see the different member states acting, and we know there's no one-size-fits-all. I mean, there's a certain amount that the EU institutions can do in helping different administrations to get on board with digital, but where do you see the gaps or the differences between different EU countries?
Well, diversity is really a blessing in many ways, because there is nothing wrong having perhaps different paths when you share a common vision. Of course, there is no size fits all, but we have, and we share, besides a common vision, we share common drivers also. So many of the things that we have been doing in Europe for the past 2 or 3 decades have been also encouraging each and every one of our countries to set a path that is very much in line, broadly speaking, with the common goals and the same vision that we share. And let me perhaps share our own example in Portugal. Last year, we approved 2 very important documents, and these documents are really guiding our reforms. And these reforms will benefit, of course, from the European Recovery and Resilience Facility. And these reforms have been set in early to 2020. We approved a broad digital transition action plan. This is a very comprehensive document that we intend to use to drive the digital transition in our economy, in our society, and of course in public sector. And for public sector, because digital government is really a major investment, we have a specific action plan. We call the Strategy for Innovation and Modernization of the State and Public Administration. And this document aims to foster a public sector deep transformation through the exploration of technology while investing in people, and also developing innovative management models that make sense in our country to reinforce proximity and deliver a better public services to all people. So these principles and these goals of reform and transformation are very much in line with the goals set in the Berlin Declaration and also in the Digital Decade 2030 to guide us collectively as Europe, as Europeans, to digital transformation in the years to come.
Thank you, Maria de Fatima. I'm taking over for a second from Jen here. And if you allow, we get questions coming in from the chat, and we are very happy about this. Thank you very much for continuing the good interaction from the morning. So we have a very specific question for Roberto here that says, when can we expect the draft 21-22 work program for the Digital Europe program to be publicly available? I know it is not today and tomorrow, and you don't know the answer, but maybe you can build a little bit on what is coming up with the next work program, with the first work program for Digital Europe.
Thank you, Max, and thank you for this question. When? I would say very soon. I mean, we have completed the consultation inside the Commission, and we are now about to approach the next formal steps. So the publication will be very soon, and we will be en route to deliver the first calls, I would say, in the early second part of the year. What to expect? I mean, it's in the program. I mean, and it's in the digital decade strategy. We will look at data and data spaces. We will look at cloud. We will look at HPC. We will look at cybersecurity. And of course, very much into interoperability and the public administration in full cooperation with Mario and his team. There will be a big novelty coming in a few weeks, which is the new regulation on European identity, which will modernize the current EIDAS regulation, which hopefully will give a boost to a much more comprehensive and modern identity ecosystem, as I was describing before, which also will influence the way, I mean, we will shape the work program. So plenty of different things, many things which one way or the other look at the public space in terms of data spaces, interoperability and identity services. And I think stay tuned, because very soon we are coming out with the work plan.
Thank you, Roberto. I know we've got plenty more questions coming in from the audience, Max, but just to remind us that you can still do that. If you're following along on the platform, please do use the tab to send in your questions to our speakers. Mario, let me come back to you then. Can you give me any good concrete examples of how the building blocks, to stay with the concrete metaphor, have helped us come out of this pandemic and hopefully looking towards recovery?
I can, but I cannot resist also to pick up on some of the points of my colleagues, because they are so rich. And I'm so happy that Roberto just mentioned the digital decade, the resilience and the digital perspective from the very beginning on the new services. This bringing together in the Digital Europe program of the aspects of interoperability, identity, and above all, linking it also to Fatima on the political declarations, the Berlin Declaration. This is very, very fundamental, because if in interoperability what we were looking was for user centricity, was for the trust, to make sure that the trans-European services were predictable in the sense of I can trust that is the organization that is providing me the right information. I can trust that the legal environment is well interpreted. I can trust that the semantics around the services is all taken care of from this interoperability framework that is so important for Europe and outside Europe. What the Berlin Declaration brings is even more, is adding the European values. And I rejoin then the circle with Roberto, because it is a different way that Europe is looking forward to go out of this crisis, and it's value-based. And the Berlin Declaration is so important because it says it's a declaration on the digital society and the value-based digital government. So it's very interesting, this look between the two, and we are looking as well for the Portuguese presidency on the 19th March to bring this digital and green perspectives so importantly together. Now on the examples, I could stay hours giving you examples, but during the crisis, Join Up was very fundamental for people to develop micro projects in the various regions of Europe. In Italy, they were looking to the concrete responses to the pandemic by using and reusing building blocks. In a more broad perspective, we see that the member states are not just using the building blocks, they actually are improving the building blocks. The fact that they are written in open source allows this multiple engagement and the private and the public sector coming together. And for us it's fundamental, because like Roberto hinted, I mean, the public administrations will not be able in the future to deliver the services that Roberto said, coming to the cities and coming to the business. We as public administrations, we don't have bandwidth, if I may use the metaphor, to deliver so many services. So we need to engage the entrepreneurs, we need to engage the startup community, the innovation community. And how can you do that? By putting open source solutions, by allowing them to create and join us in delivering the service. So that is fundamental, and is the different way in Europe we'll go out of the crisis.
Thank you. Maria de Fatima, let me come back to you and ask, In terms of Portugal, what, looking forward in terms of a declaration, what we can expect? Can you give us some hints about the future?
Well, just a few hints, because all will be revealed quite soon. We already said that we expect to have a charter of digital rights. As I said previously, we want to raise awareness on security and privacy issues, on work-life balance, on everything that is relevant to an individual when in work or out of work. And really the reinforcement of the respect for individual digital rights is a major issue that we want to state and I highlight. So there will be a charter of digital rights. My colleague, Andreas Vedo from Digital Transition is leading the way, paving the way. So we will have news quite soon, and I think this will be a major follow-up on the Berlin Declaration. As Roberto said, and as Mario said, hello Mario, we keep crossing each other. As Mario said, and we are always repeating a lot, that our mission in life is to uphold the values that we defend as a society and that support our societies as European societies. So this Charter of Digital Rights, I hope, will be another building block that adds up to this ecosystem of values that we are really standing up for.
Thank you so much, Maria and Fatima, for this one. And it is heartwarming to hear you, all three of you, but also to see how the Portuguese presidency is putting itself into a link, a very close link, together with the German presidency that was just behind, and then the Slovene presidency coming in and bridging then forward. So this is something also that we have the feeling is that has not existed at this strength, this clarity, and this is something, it's a very positive signal. But can I maybe go back, because I get the messages from the chat that is coming in, and go back to Roberto with a question. Before already you mentioned one of the big important elements that is being currently under review and coming forward with the update of the eIDAS regulation, a cornerstone of the EU environment. But here comes a question in from a colleague from the chat saying, as the motto of our event says, technology without a purpose is pointless. And now comes the question, will the forthcoming package on artificial intelligence address purpose beyond economic sectors and technologies, especially which risks are associated to AI, and in particular also to the public sector, given that citizens do not always have much choice when you deal with public administrations? Roberto, can you lift a little bit the lid? Give us your ideas?
Yes, with pleasure. So, you know, tomorrow there's the official presentation of the AI regulation, but I'm happy to give some spoilers here. Before I do that, I wanted to come back on a point that Mario touched upon, and you asked it repeatedly. I mean, are the building blocks we have worked on in the past, are they useful? Did they help in the pandemic? I mean, if I would have told you 1 year ago, you know, we are going to organize a pass on vaccine based on the content will be vaccines or tests, digitally signed for hundreds of millions of citizens and make it interoperable in Europe in 2 months. You would have told me, Roberto, this is the address of the madhouse where you can go and stay there, please. And now we are doing it in 2 months. And the reason why we are doing it, because we have been training for this for years. Because without all the work that we have been doing, interoperability of public services, digital signature and the rest, what we are doing today in 2 months would have taken years. And that's why Europe will be the first continent to come with this solution, because we now can build on a solid experience we have. Now, coming to your question. The answer is a yes. I mean, the regulation that will be presented tomorrow will have a special eye when it comes to the fundamental rights of citizens to have a job, to be treated by the public administration. And this does not mean that the public administration should not use or cannot use AI. On the contrary, AI is very welcome, especially when it makes the life of citizens more simple. But at the same time, those applications should be screened against robustness, against, criteria like where the data set is coming from, the train the algorithm, what is the documentation, has been a test, what is the performance of the algorithm, and most important one, there must be always a human review of the decision. So if you are not admitted to do something which is your right, you should always ask a human for a review of this decision, and if necessary, go even beyond. So this is the human-centric approach to AI, to make sure that AI helps the citizens, and at the same time, citizens can always ask the help of a human being.
Roberto, then, if I may, a follow-up question. I asked Mario about concrete examples. Do you have any concrete examples to give us regarding how the working together of the different departments has helped us in coming out of the pandemic?
I just said it. through this Green Pass realized in a fortnight, this could not have been possible without having worked together for years, because this is the result of years working together, not only inside the Commission, but with the member states. And we don't need to explain to colleagues and friends in member states what is digital signature, or now to make sure that every lab in Europe has digital signature. This is a no-brainer, but it is a no-brainer because we have been working together for years on these things.
Okay, Mario, let me come back to you then.
Well, we sometimes avoid to go into very concrete examples because we give the sense that we are valuing those more than others. And I think that Roberto just made an example. But just to quote, for example, we launched a digital challenge precisely to use the SAF building blocks, the building blocks that we are developing to apply in a lot of different areas. And we were super excited with the startups that moved forward and said, I can use this in this domain of literacy, in this domain of geo-referenciation or whatever. And you suddenly look around and say, wow, interoperability from the public sector point of view has so many domains. And as I said, and Roberto just insisted, this has been fundamental. There is no answer to a crisis that goes in the right direction if the right strategic decisions have not been taken before. And I think that this is the big learning in Europe, is that although we sometimes, and I think that I join Roberto in sometimes some frustration by the things not moving so fast as we wanted, here it is, the moment came where all the previous investments came into reality in an amazing way. And this is what we should I think, highlight, is that the same way the society reinvented itself, the same way as people stayed at home, used the different tools to communicate. The public administrations did the same with an extra element, and the element is the contractual, is the social dimension of that, is the social contract that we need to have continuously with our citizens and businesses. And that's why Roberto mentioned that the AI strategy is very attentive to the European values, because this is important. We have to be predictable. People have to understand what we are doing. We have to work for the good of society, unlike other motivations that may be in the market that are not constrained by the positive notion of working towards the good of the society.
I think it's probably good that we're having this discussion today at the beginning of our 3 days. But very often, I'm sure, if things are going smoothly and things are going well, no one notices it. It's only when something goes wrong that we have a chance to talk about it. So I think, we speak a bit about finding silver linings to pandemics and, crises being the mother of invention, but it can only work from a baseline of collaboration. Maria de Fatima, let me give a last word to you. I've asked the gentleman for concrete examples. Maybe you can just give me a concrete hope for the future and an aspiration.
You don't want any examples? Any
Oh,
other
if you have them,
examples?
we would like
I
to
was
hear
so
them.
ready to give you two examples at the national level.
Please do
And
that.
then a word of inspiration for the future. Well, starting with a word of inspiration, I think we really share this common vision, as I said previously, that we are going on the right path, sharing infrastructure, sharing guidelines, sharing regulations, and sharing values. And this can take us a long way. Well, at a national level, we are trying to do our bit. And what we are doing is quite simple. You mentioned artificial intelligence. You can have artificial intelligence, as you know, as we know, if you don't have quality data, and if you can't manage your data ecosystem with safely and transparently. So trust is a main issue. And to develop trust and citizens' trust and the digital, we are, for instance, designing a personal information management system, a digital wallet, where every citizen can learn what data public services have about him or her, and where the same citizen using this service can manage that information, updating it or granting its sharing among multiple services when it's required. So this is a simple example of something that is hard to do, but it's quite efficient on increasing trust in public administration on public services. The other example is digital identity, which is a major and common challenge, as we know, in Europe. We have our digital mobile key, which is a national solution of multi-factor authentication with digital certificates for digital signatures also, and which is fully compatible with the ISA directive. And this is already a great solution for part of our challenges. And during the pandemic, this solution has scaled up. We have 1.7 million active mobile keys. And this is a fundamental capability for trusted digital transactions. And we already have it, and we want to improve it. And the common work, which the Commission is leading, reviewing the ISA directive, is really giving us some important clues on the future. So I think word for the future, don't forget our common vision, don't forget where we are coming from, and keep focus on the path ahead, because we know where we are going to. We are sharing the values, we are building upon recently the Berlin Declaration, and the work that is ahead will keep uniting us in collaboration indoors and across our borders to achieve even better results and, of course, better lives for all our citizens.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Roberto and Mario, as well, for that interesting discussion.